Hello everyone. Today I'll be taking a look at the spell Travel Mystical Pathways and ask the question just how broken it is in the current rules of the old world. There's been quite a lot of rules discussions going on about Travel Mystical Pathways, especially in the competitive community, of course. And I've seen that not everybody's completely up to speed with it yet, what the controversy is, and just how much it matters for the game. So that's why I want to lay out the arguments for both sides today, and maybe show you a little bit about what's going on and what are the arguments, and tell you about my opinion on it as well, of course. So let's first talk about what Travel Mystical Pathways and also Infernal Gateway are. They sort of have the same problem, but the problem is most, or the discussion is most prominent with Travel Mystical Pathways. But it also comes up for Infernal Gateway. So, for those who do not know, Travel Mystical Pathways is a spell, the number 6 spell in the Elementalism tree. And it says that you basically get to pick up a unit that you own and remove it from the battlefield and place it anywhere within 12 of its original location and not within 6 of any animal models. And then you cannot move again. This looks fine, kind of reasonable. This looks like a 12-inch teleport, but it is actually a lot more than a 12-inch teleport, because very importantly, the spell specifies that you have to put down your unit within 12 inches of its original position, and not necessarily wholly within 12 inches of its original position. The spell Infernal Gateway says the same, but you only get to cast it on characters, so it's a lot more limited, and you cannot do it on units, which makes it a lot less strong. But also, it's rules-wise, it's the same issue. Just because there's a different target you can use it on, the units you can do it on, you can use it and you can exploit it a little bit more. So maybe I hear you. Well, within or wholly within 12 inches, you still sort of move 12 inches, right? How big can the difference be? I'm going to show you that the difference can be very large. So first, I will show you in game what it would look like if you would interpret this spell as that your unit has to end wholly within 12 inches of the starting location. You see if the unit of Ushabti with bows on the right would be teleported. The circle around it shows the 12-inch bubble around the model to the left. You see you can sort of teleport it, well, roughly 12 inches to the left of where they started. But then you would end wholly within the 12 inches. But if you say, well, it says within, you don't have to be wholly within 12 inches, you get to do stuff like this. Because only partially the base of one of your models needs to end up wholly within 12 inches. So that makes it so you can move like a lot more. You can, depending on how big the unit is, because just one model has to be within range of, had to be base to base within range of 12 inches of any one model of the last unit. Using this, you can move units very far up the board, like 20, 30 inches. You can move them up. You can move them up tons. So the difference seems kind of small, but it is very big. And well, if you really look at it, rules as written, the word within, it says within, it doesn't say wholly within. So there's something that can be said for this rules interpretation that says, well, I end up within 12 inches. I do everything else that the spell says. This is where my unit's going to end up. So we're going to have to look a little bit deeper into the word within and how it's used in the rest of the book, to see how we should interpret it, or if we should read wholly within there, even though it's not specifically listed. And there are some arguments that you can make for that. Like, for example, in the deployment rules on page 285 on the rulebook, the rules say that you have to deploy units within your deployment zone. And as everybody plays the game, that you have to deploy units wholly within your deployment zone. Nobody, I think, interprets the rules in a way that says, well, as long as one part of your base is within your deployment zone, you get to put them down, and you get to and you have to have parts of your unit outside of your deployment zone. I think nobody plays it like that, nobody thinks like that. So that you could construe this, and in here it also just says within, it doesn't say wholly within, so this is a pretty good argument for saying, well, they use the word within here as well, so within should always be wholly within throughout the entire book, if you would take it from a consistency standpoint. But sadly, a good counter argument to that is actually can be found in the general inspiring presence rules, because that also just says within and not wholly within. And I think most people play that if one part of your unit is within 12 of your general, or 18 if he's a large target, just taking the base rules here. Nobody says that your entire unit has to be wholly within 12 inches of your general to be able to get a general's presence. It would be very strange, then you'd never be able to use this rule to buff your leadership. So this is a case of within in which I would say, nah, yeah, they probably don't mean wholly within. So which one of the two is it? How do you have to read within for this rule, for the general rules, for the deployment rule, and most crucially for the travel mystical pathway rules? I honestly think there is no real answer currently. I think this needs an FAQ, or your tournament organizer needs to rule on this before the day. It has to be in your event pack. You need to take a stance on this to avoid discussions at the table, because as I laid out, it's just not possible to make a solid. It's possible to make solid arguments from both sides, and it's just from the rules as we have them right now. You can say it is within, but then still, sort of circling back to the deployment rules, nobody argues that you can put, if only a base of your unit is inside your deployment zone, you get to deploy the rest. So even sort of a raw, like rules as written kind of consideration for these rules is very hard to make, because the same words are used differently around the units. Personally, and in my the events that I organize, I have ruled to not allow it because it feels pretty gamey, and because it feels kind of wrong. But that's honestly that's a completely subjective argument. You have to make a decision as a tournament organizer on this, and I don't think there's a reasonable or sort of factual or rational right or wrong to this. It feels wrong to me, so I'm not going to allow it, and I might change on that if a lot of people in my local area would be against it. To those saying, yeah, well, this is gamey, this is the competitive players doing it all again. Obviously, you do not do that. This is not rules as intended, so you should never run it. I would like to ask your attention for the latest Tomb King's Casket of Souls ruling, because Games Workshop actually came out and said, yeah, even though this model has the immovable object special rule, there are some rules that give it a reserve move that happens in the shooting phase, so you can move it. It's been specified that you can, but there are other teleport spells in the game, for example, travel mystical pathways, that happen in the movement phase, so you still cannot move it then. So we have a model with a movable immovable object. There are different teleport spells in the game, and depending on when you teleport them, if it's in the shooting phase, you can do it, and if you do it in the movement phase, you cannot do it. I was extremely surprised by this. I thought that the Tomb King's Casket of Souls thing with movement, with reserve move, was obviously not allowed. I was like, well, they're never going to allow this. This is some grade A, competitive mindset going at work here, and they totally went out and did it. So I really want to, when having an opinion about this, it's very important to keep an open mind on what the rules intended are, because it's extremely hard to know what GW is thinking, because the rules as they are written in the book, they are not 100%. So we have to be some good sports and have some clear rules ourselves. Be the cool gaming adults that we know we should and aspire to be, and just talk to this with your tournament before a game, or ask your tournament organizer if you're going to an event. So I hope this rule controversy is a little bit clearer now, and I hope a little bit educational as well. And I hope to see you again sometime.